Hi everybody, welcome to Show and Tell Sunday on Chorus Girl Quilting. And today I am showing off probably one of my most favorite quilts that I've made. Really proud of this one because I typically say I don't design my own quilts, and I didn't design all of this, but I came up with the idea to take a quilt pattern and work this panel into it. And I call it Woman in Gold, and it was inspired by a movie by the same name, and it stars Helen Mirren and Ryan Reynolds. But and who doesn't love Helen Mirren? Oh my gosh! And you can look that up and learn about the story of this painting. This is a panel of fabric designed off of Gustav Klimt's Adela. Her name, this lady is Adela, and she's a real person, and her husband commissioned this painting from Gustav Klimt, and she actually appears in a couple other of his paintings that I can't think of off the top of my head. But what I did, if you're new to quilting or curious, my curious quilting friends, a panel is simply a piece of fabric that's been designed from, it's width of fabric usually, and they're anywhere from 24 to 36 inches across. So right here, and way back when I made this in the summer of 2024, and there was a line of fabric based on Gustav Klimt's gold era. He had an era, a gold era, and this is what a panel looks like. Most of them are about this size. This is about, I think it's 24 by 42 inches long. This is his portrait lady with a fan. And then the other one I have from his paintings is this one, The Kiss, which is kind of awesome too. So what I did was take a published pattern. This is called, what these blocks you see around the panel are from a pattern called Drifting Dresdens, and it is a Missouri Star Quilt Company pattern that I saw in a tutorial that one of the gals, she's one of Jenny Doan's daughters, did this, and it's called Drifting Dresdens, and here's why. This right here, these circular blocks are called Dresden plate blocks, and there are all kinds of variations of the Dresden plate, and you use a wedge template to do that, to cut those wedges, and they can be really long or they can be really short like you see here, and that's what these blocks are made out of as well. We just use the wedge template to do that and sew them together on the long edges, and then I would have to trim them off to make a square. So I wanted it to look like it was a framed piece of art, and so I added that border up, all the way around, and then did a black binding because I kind of wanted it to look like a matted photo with a thin frame. And typically you see panels centered up in quilts, and I wanted to do a little different and kind of offset her. But I love this quilt. I really like how it turned out. This fabric, which you'll see close up later, has a lot of metallic kind of accent on it, in this panel and on all of these fabrics that go with it. And the quilting pattern is Fanfare, which if you saw the show and tell for the Tilda Soiree quilt, it's exactly the same pattern. I did not quilt this. I took it to the lady I've mentioned before, Nancy, who lives nearby, and I walked in and showed her this quilt top, and she said, I wasn't even hardly in the door, and she said, I have the perfect pattern for this. And she was right. She showed it to me and I went, oh my gosh, yes, that's perfect. So once it was done, I entered this in the county fair here, and it won grand champion, which was awesome. And then I took it to the state fair and it won a red ribbon, but there were lots and lots and lots more quilts, and a lot of them were, you know, hand appliqued. The one that won best in show was like a hand appliqued, and it was tiny little pieces and all that. You kind of can't beat a hand appliqued quilt when you do that. Then I entered it last summer in the Kansas City Regional Quilt Festival, and I'd been there before, and so I knew that I wasn't going to win any prizes there, just based on the things I've seen. But I wanted to hear what a judge that was judging like massive amounts of quilts would say about this, and she did have a lot of positive feedback. And you know, every judge has commented on the quilting and the thread color, which was a perfect. Nancy picked a color that blended back into the quilt instead of choosing one that jumps out at you, because you have this piece of artwork here that you kind of don't want to, you don't want the quilting to take away from that. So that's the front, and in just a second we're gonna have Handyman's gonna come up here and do some close-up so you can see like some of the detail in the fabric. So we'll be right back. Here we are, kind of close up. We're gonna focus on 4 blocks here. This just kind of gives you an idea of all the different fabrics that were in this fabric line, and you can see the gold, kind of shimmery gold accents in some of it, like in these pieces especially, and this gold background. This Dresden plate right here, the way you make these is you have to make this ring of your petals or blades first, and then you have to sew it onto the fabric. You can do that by hand, or you can do it with a machine. And this was a first for me. I had never done this particular stitch on my machine, and I wanted to try it out. So this is called a blanket stitch, and you can also do a hand blanket stitch. And then you have to attach the middle of it as well, and make a circle and then attach it onto the quilt. So that's the close-up. You can see the quilting up close. So that's the front, and we're going to come back and I'll show you the back. This is the back. It's not super exciting, but I just thought it was really cool when I found it. This is also part of this fabric line, and it's been 2 years since I've done this, so I can't remember all the details of it. But this scene is actually, I think, a painting he did of a town that he lived in or worked in or had a home in. And I also had to use 2 big long pieces, and so what you run into again is you have to match that up so it doesn't look all wonky, and judges do care about that. So I didn't have enough fabric to match the pattern exactly, but I found parts, and the seam is probably over here somewhere, but I found parts of the picture that looked like it would fit together, and that's how I did it. And I also, I did this on purpose because I knew I was gonna enter this in the fair. Our county fair doesn't require this, but lots of shows do. You to put a hanging sleeve up on the top of your quilt, and there's all these rules about how you have to make one. So I did that and put that up there as well. So if I wanted to hang this on a rod or hanger, I could do that. I have the rod I have hanging up in the quilt loft is just one of those that has the clippy rings on it, so I can do that too. But anyway, that's the Woman in Gold quilt, and I'm going to link to the pattern that I used, and probably a link on the movie, or some information about the main character of that movie and who she was and how she was actually related to Adela, that's in this painting. It's really interesting, World War II history. If you're interested in that, I'll put a link in there in the description. So like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on Wednesday for what I'm working on Wednesday. Bye.